As we get started on Chapter 2, which is called The Existence of Matter, let's make sure that we understand why that chapter is called what it is, and especially the use of the word matter there. If we go back to the first chapter, we see that in a certain passage, Russell says, the real table, if it exists, we will call a physical object. Thus, we have to consider the relation of sense data to physical objects. The collection of all physical objects is called matter. Okay, so when we read the word matter here in this context, we can replace it with physical object, or the collection of all physical objects. And what does he mean by matter, and why does he use that term a little bit farther on in Chapter 1? He says, we commonly mean by matter something which is opposed to mind, something which we think of as occupying space and as radically incapable of any sort of thought or consciousness. This is the usual dualistic, as it's called in the history of philosophy, usually associated with Descartes, dualistic view that the universe or reality consists of two incredibly different, separate, categorically distinct kinds of being. One mental, and that would be things like sense data, sensations, minds, and on the other hand, the physical or the material, the non-thinking things, the things that are incapable of thought, that have no mental aspect to them. And what we're really asking at this point is, I guess, whether anything exists apart from the mental. We are sure of our sense data. They appear to us immediately and without any sort of the need for any sort of medium. But we're not sure about the existence of matter. We don't know if there is such a thing. We don't know if there are any physical objects that in some way or another are related to or correspond to our sensations, to the sense data that appear to us immediately in our experience. Again, looking back at the first chapter, we see there's that question of independence, whether there is anything independent of us or me, really, because we're really all looking at the world from a first-person point of view. He says again in Chapter 1 about the philosopher Berkeley, he does not deny that the sense data, which we commonly take as signs of the existence of the table, are really signs of the existence of something independent of us. But he does deny that this something is non-mental. That's what we'll see as idealism. So there really are two different questions. The first question is whether there is anything independent of our sensing, of our experience. And the second is really, what is that thing like, if there is such a thing? So that's really what he gets into. Again, this notion of independence, a little bit farther in the first chapter, he says, in fact, almost all philosophers seem to be agreed that there is a real table. They almost all agree that, however much our sense data, color, shape, smoothness, etc., may depend upon us, yet their occurrence is a sign of something something existing independently of us, something differing perhaps completely from our sense data, and yet to be regarded as causing those sense data whenever we are in a suitable relation to the real table. That's what he'll later characterize as the common sense, instinctive belief that there is something independent of us and our sense data. We're not saying what that is or how we would characterize it or even how we would know it, but the common sense is that our sense data in some way are caused by things in the world and in some way or another signs of the things in the world. Of course, there is the problem. He more or less ends chapter 1 by saying what the senses immediately tell us is not the truth about the object, as it is apart from us, but only the truth about certain sense data, which, so far as we can see, depend upon the relations between us and the object. Thus, what we directly see and feel is merely appearance, which we believe to be a sign of some reality behind. But if the reality is not what appears, have we any means of knowing whether there is any reality of all? And if so, have we any means of finding out what it is like? So if we keep these questions in mind and these problems in mind, and already we can see that Russell is sketching out a kind of approach to them, I think we'll be in a good position to understand especially what's going on in Chapter 2.